Hi, Deneen Shoemaker with your 420 Minute. So this week, I wanted to talk to you about prayer. One of the things that I decided to take on for Lent was to spend more time in prayer. And I have actually been pretty decent at getting up in the morning and a little bit earlier and not just reading devotion, but spending time talking to God. I will say that I'm probably not as good as I should be about listening to God. So, it's a work in progress. But I really wanted to impress upon you today that God does hear our prayers. In Acts, Acts is the first book outside of the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And in chapter 10, we read about Cornelius and Peter. And Peter, of course, is the rock on who Christ built the church. And so Peter has this vision, and he realizes that everything that God has made clean is clean. And, you can read about all of that. But in the 30th verse of chapter 10, we read that Cornelius is talking to Peter and says, 4 days ago I was praying in my house about this same time, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Suddenly, a man in dazzling clothes was standing in front of me. He told me, Cornelius, your prayer has been heard, and your deeds have been seen by God. And in the in 2 Chronicles in the Old Testament, we read in chapter 30, it talks about preparation and celebration of the Passover, which is a time that the Jewish people set aside to remember that God saved them. And in the 27th verse, it says, then the priests and Levites, now I thought Levites were priests, so to me that seems a little redundant. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, they stood and blessed the people, and God heard their prayer from his holy dwelling in heaven. And there's more instances where we read that God hears our prayers. And so this week I want to ask you, what are you praying for? And are you willing to be very specific in your prayers? Because not only have I read about God hearing prayers, I've experienced in my own life God answering my very specific prayers. The detail is amazing. So I want to challenge you this week to get very specific. I do want to caution you what you pray for. I've learned to not pray for patience anymore, because what I've figured out is that God doesn't really give you patience. God puts you in positions to test your patience so you can work it out. Yeah. So be careful what you pray for specifically, but I implore you to take your petitions to our Creator, and I think you'll be amazed at the detail to which our Creator wants to make our life abundant and good. So that is my thought for you this week. Put those specific prayers out there. Know that God hears them. I believe that God will show you that God hears them. And let's all try really hard this week to listen too. Listen, because I know that God speaks in the stillness of our hearts. So, hope this has been helpful to you this week. Grace and peace.